完璧などありえない。この世界は不完全だから美しい。もう
バカ何？
俺は海賊王になる。
なんて美味しさなの。
力を渡した時に言ったことを覚えているかい？くれ。違う、そこじゃない。
変態遅い。
Hello and welcome to More Than Hentai, a podcast that is here to show that anime is far more than just tentacles and catgirls. There's also countless stories of love, loss, laughs, hope, horror, and happiness that are just dying to be found. And I, Brenda White, the Salt and Pepper Senpai, I'm here to help you find them. More Than Hentai is proudly powered by our friends over at Audio Technica and Dash Water. So please go upgrade your audio and hydration games today, preferably after you listen to this fantastic episode. And joining me in the Segoy studio is a family man, gamer, pop culture aficionado, and fellow podcaster who unleashed his talents upon the world earlier this year via the side quest hustle. He's got a voice that's as smooth as jazz and a vibe that's as cool as the underside of your pillow. From an anime standpoint, he's a man with tastes that gravitate towards the classics, with titles such as One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and Gundam listed amongst his favorites. You can find him on the socials at the Side Quest Hustles. Full links will be in the show notes. Shad Band, you bloody legend, welcome to the studio. How might you be doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you. I love that intro. I'm going to steal that, by the way.
That is totally fine, man. I'll send you my notes, but you run with it as you choose. But, man, all I did was just take the greatness that is you and convert it into my own words. So, no, thank you for being yourself, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely.
I appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule as well. If you can't tell from our differences in accents, we are coming to each other from across the globe right now. It is a Saturday evening on the September 14th for Shad, and it is the 15th for me because I'm coming to you all from the future here in Australia. But very excited to talk anime and talk all things greatness with you. But first, let's maybe jump into your backstory. Let's talk about the side quest hustle. Let's talk about all the cool things you're doing with your project that's been kicking on now since the last couple of months. I think it was June it officially kicked off, if I remember right. So we're about 4 months into the side quest hustle journey. So let's talk about that, man. How did it come to be? And let's go on this journey together. Tell me where you want to take us.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was about community for me, man. I love anime. I love gaming, TV shows, movies, and finding a community to discuss it all with, to geek out with, and talk about what's new, talk about the classics, talk about everything in sort of whatever we want to geek out about. And so talking with a couple of people and listening to a few people, one of my best friends was like, hey, why not do a podcast? We listen to a podcast all the time, and there's a couple of our friends who do like sports podcasts, but we didn't know anybody personally who did podcasts that focused, primarily on anime or gaming. And so I started searching and found like, yeah, this is something that people podcast about. And people, they interact with each other, and the community is pretty big and vibrant and interactive. And so it started with launched all of the social medias. We came up with a name. And so where the name comes from, I'm not sure if you're a gamer or not.
I am, my man. I am. So when I saw the side quest verbiage, I'm like, I know exactly where this is coming from. So you're a man after my heart already.
Exactly. And like, Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of my favorite video games. I think it's like one of the, if not the greatest video game created. And it's full of side quests. There's probably more side quest content than actual game content when you look at it. And so I just got to thinking, there are things you can do in these side quests that string the entire story of the game. And in life, people do the same thing. People will come and, they'll start a podcast, they'll start a YouTube channel. They might do photography or something like that. And it's all just one big side quest hustle.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I think it's something that everybody can resonate with as well. Like whether it be in that geek sphere, whether it be gaming, pop culture, podcasting, but whether, you pick up a sport, you start knitting, you start, all kinds of things. Like you become an artist, a photographer. Like you said, I think everybody on this earth has their own version of a side quest. So the naming is immediately relatable and universal, which I love. And yeah, shout out to Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the greatest protagonists ever written. And yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 I'm with you. It's one of the GOATs. It's one of my favorite video games. I've spent, I don't know how many hours in not only the offline mode, but then doing a lot in the online space. Didn't jump into the role play. Thought about it for a hot minute because it looked like a time, but I prefer to have my gaming experiences mostly singular and more directly controlled by myself. But yeah, RDR2 is very special. I'm holding out hope for a third.
I think they'll have a third. And depending on where they take it, I mean, there's so much lore in it. I'm a big lore geek. And so there's so much lore and backstory. I mean, if you look at RDR1, RDR2 takes you to the events that take place a few years before that, pretty much leading up to that game. But in this one, they drop like all of the lore that, before this, the reason they end up here is because of what took place almost, I think, immediately prior to the start of Red Dead Redemption 2. And, they mention other characters and these characters who die and these events that took place. And then even your protagonist in there where, I mean, I think the game's been out long enough where we don't have to give a spoiler warning.
Yeah, I think you're fine, man.
Yeah. The protagonist wasn't in these events that took place that led the gang to where they are in the second game. And it's like, okay, why wasn't he there? And so, yeah, man, for me, I'm a big lore geek. I just started Warhammer and found out about all of that lore, and I'm like hooked. I've been
strap in, man. Strap. It is a lot. Like I dabbled with the minis when I was a kid, and then sort of had a bit of a long multi-decade break. But with Space Marine 2 that just came out, I've jumped right back in and just getting all this lore and all this just context thrown at you subtly, and also as subtle as a sledgehammer at times, because they just throw stuff at you and you're like, what is happening here? Why are these cherub demon babies floating through this space citadel? And like, what is going on here? But like, it is so metal, and I love everything about that world. And I'm holding out hope that they can come to an agreement, because I know apparently they've got a deadline till December between Henry Cavill, Games Workshop, and Amazon to agree on the direction of what they do with this cinematic franchise. So I'm holding out hope, because seeing some of this stuff translate to screen, whether it be TV, film, even animated, will be special, because it's gorgeous and nightmare fuel all at once.
Yeah, I feel like that'll definitely be magical. It definitely has a story and lore that will translate perfect to a TV show. And I think Henry Cavill, I'm not sure if he was cast to play Titus, the main character, but I could see him. I could see him fitting that role. And so fingers crossed, hopefully that they do march forward with it.
I hope so too, because like it's really, really latched its claws into me the last week or so playing Space Marine 2, because it's super fun, especially when you're rolling out with a couple of mates. Like, it just adds this level of stress and tension. It's got that sort of same magic and timing that Helldivers 2 had earlier this year, where it's just a good fun time that gets the heart racing, that elevates the stress levels, but then it elevates even further when you're playing with some buds. So it's one of my favorites of the year so far.
Cool, good. I'm just now diving into it. I played through the introduction chapter, and I've just started, I guess, what's the main campaign. And I'm completely new. I've never heard, I've heard of Warhammer, but I've never played a Warhammer game, picked up anything about it until, this past Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
And so, and I've probably dove off the deep end and learning about the lore and everything. And I'm just like, oh man, I have been missing out.
It is so deep as well. And then just looking at the different races, and then the sub sort of troops and groupings amongst the races. Like, I always was a bit of a Chaos fan, and some of that stuff is just, it'll scare the Grim Reaper. You read some of the stories and the lore, and you just go, gee, who the hell came up with this? And then seeing that converted to a model or to a video game, you just go, man, I'm not sleeping tonight. This is some intense stuff here, but it's well worth it. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see what you get up to now and into the future with the side quest hustle. I know you've been talking about a couple of fantastic games. You did a deep dive on one of my favorites from the last 12 months with the Apothecary Diaries, which I think is a special anime that not enough people are talking about, in my humble opinion. But man, it was a really good listen.
Yeah, Apothecary Diaries was a recommendation from Tyler over at the Anime Degens podcast, and it's not the typical anime that I would watch. It's not something that I would normally get into at all. But once it got rolling, I was hooked. And the ending to that season was as close to perfect as could possibly be. I mean, I agree with you. I had heard of this anime when it first came out, but it was kind of like I said, it wasn't what I would normally be into. And I took it on as a challenge so that we could talk about it on the show. And I'm hooked. I'm ready for season 2. They've given me some other similar anime that they feel would capture my attention just like Apothecary Diaries would. Okay. So I may be diving into a different genre of anime than I would normally. I think I'm finding myself as a fan.
I love this. Can you spoil it a little bit and tell us some of the other recommendations they've given you? That's sort of like, if you're going to love Apothecary Diaries, you'll hopefully also love this just as much.
What is it? It's and I may butcher this pronunciation. It's Yatsugarasu, I believe, is A Crow Does Not Choose Its Master. They said that that's a similar one. Very good, sort of similar time frame, but with the more mythical aspect to it. And they swear by it. They did live streams of it, and I didn't tune in to any because they gave that recommendation. I didn't want to spoil it. I want to be able to watch it through and properly review it. So yeah, that'll be the next one that I tackle.
Hell yeah. And the good thing is we're just constantly inundated with new anime dropping every season. And the quality and consistency seasonally at the moment seems like it's at a bit of an all-time high, at least for me. I don't know if that's recency bias or not, but the summer season at the moment has so many heavy hitters that I am absolutely obsessed about. And yeah, it's a good time to be an anime fan. And I like that you're sort of getting off the beaten track, I guess, as far as the flavor that you're usually consuming from an anime perspective, and trying some things that are a little outside of the norm for you. So it's good to see. But let's maybe jump into your history and your backstory when it comes to anime. Like, I know from an anime standpoint, I mentioned some of your favorites, and they are sort of part of the the Mount Rushmore or the pinnacle of anime, as a lot of people like to classify some of these titles as. But I know your foray into anime was similar to me, where we jumped in probably with maybe not the right age appropriate content for ourselves. Like, my first dip of the toe into anime was Ninja Scroll as like a 9-year-old kid. And I loved it, but I probably shouldn't have watched it. But yours was Akira, which is also something not aimed at children. So let's talk about, those first impressions, checking out Akira way back when, and then, talking about just your anime habits and fandoms at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, Akira was my first, and it was one of those just channel surfing, and it was a cartoon on a channel that doesn't normally have cartoons. It was the Sci-Fi channel, but they had an anime block. I think it was every night for like a 2-3 hour time frame. They showed anime, Ninja Scroll, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Evangelion, those type of animes, a little bit more mature, not really kid focused. But Akira was my first jump into Japanese animation. And man, it hooked me. It was action. It was story like I hadn't seen in any type of animation previously. And I was hooked from there. And like, fun fact, I didn't watch, I want to say it was a couple of years before I actually watched it in one sitting, because it was on TV, and this was back in the 90s. it wasn't like, you could just turn it on and watch it start to finish. They had the TV Guide channel where you had to flip through to see what time things were coming on. And I believe the very first time I watched it was probably about halfway through. And it was when Tetsuo was escaping the hospital. And that was my first. So I picked it up right there in the middle. But there were times where I would catch the beginning, but catching the beginning, it was like 10 p.m. And so I would fall asleep about, 30, 45 minutes through, or I would catch the tail end, or I would end up catching the middle for various reasons. And so it was a couple of years before I actually watched it start to finish. But again, it was a different style of animation. It was a little bit more violent. And it had a deeper story than anything we would watch on a Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. And that's what really drew me in. And then discovering the other things, such as a Ninja Scroll or a Ghost in the Shell, Evangelion. I believe Starship Trooper had an anime at the time that was the same. And I've been hooked ever since. Of course, there were the things like Pokemon and Digimon who came on some more of the mainstream channels that people may not have realized were anime at the time that I was watching. But I've had a love for it ever since. That really hooked me, and Akira has a special place in my heart because of that. I actually did a rewatch this year just to bring, refresh my memory on like what got me started when I was starting the podcast. And man, even watching it now, I can understand how it was groundbreaking, because in the West and in the Americas, there was nothing like that. No one thought to make an animation that was geared towards adults. And it really hooked me even as a kid. And then bringing that, to today, I'm there with you. I believe anime these past couple of years have really been hitting season after season, and there's something for everybody. And take the summer, for example. There are two anime that I just kind of watched on a whim, just needing something to watch. Wisteria Wand and Sword and The Elusive Samurai. And those two have me hooked. The Elusive Samurai is probably my top pick for the summer. But Wisteria Wand and Sword, I feel like is one that'll have legs. It is one that I feel like as the story progresses, it's gonna get better. It's gonna draw more people in. Season 1 had a bunch of action and a bunch of aspects that people really love about anime. But I feel like it's one that has to pick up and get going, sort of like older anime used to. The Elusive Samurai, the animation is different, but it's amazing.
It's gorgeous, man. It's one of the best looking anime, not only of the season, but of the year. Like the artistic transitions where they're going from your standard animation styles to more like, watercolor fever dreamy stuff. Like it just blows my mind. It's stunning. And it's one of the top 10 for the year, for the season for me with, Elusive Samurai. I've been enjoying Wisteria, and because it's done by the same mangaka who did Danmachi, or Is It Wrong to Try and Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, which is a isekai that I absolutely really love. But like you said, I think it is taking a lot of time. Like there's a lot of table setting going on in this season. Like there is some really cool fights, and they're explaining the stakes and why Will is doing what he's doing and stuff like that. So there is a lot of lore being presented to us here I think they've done 10 episodes for the season now so far, if I remember right. And it's gorgeous, but it just hasn't firmly sunk its hooks into me. Like I'm caring, but I'm not caring to the level I want to yet. So I'm hoping, like you said, that maybe future seasons is going to ramp, because I think the manga goes for I think there's 160 plus chapters worth of Wisteria. So there's a lot of content there that they can dive through. So I hope when we see Will continue to climb the tower and try and get up there to his beloved, that it'll build up. But like anytime there's a good bromance involved, I'll usually give it my attention, even if it is going to be a dumpster fire of an anime. I'm like, no, I want to see these people find each other and find happiness. And that's sort of my, I wouldn't say my kink, but it's like my kryptonite. Like it gets me every single time, and I must yield to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that, which is Tower of God was another one from the summer season. I'm a big Tower of God fan. I've read the manhwa, up to its current official releases, and it's another one of those that it is a bromance, trying to get the friends back together. And its season underwhelmed a little bit, but it's picked up the past two episodes. So I'm hoping they continue that momentum into this next arc, which is a really big one for it. And so, but even jumping back to the spring was pretty solid as well with Kaiju number 8, Windbreaker. I mean, even going back to the winner, I think, had Apothecary Diaries. It had Frieren, which is just an amazing anime. And I feel like, every season has had 2, 3, if not 4 anime that are really, really high quality. But then they've also had 2 or 3 that are good binge watches.
Yeah, we're eating well. And this season feels for me like the current summer season feels like the strongest from top to bottom throughout the year. Like I've been putting through, like I'm currently working through 26 different anime from this season. So I've been ranking them and I'm watching them peak and trough here and there depending on episodes and sort of tic-tacking between, that's in the top 10 now, that's dropped and this has gone up. And consistently I'm having a really hard time trying to narrow down just to top 10. And I think that's a testament to this season overall, because there's just so much good anime to consume at the moment. Like I said, it feels like a bit of a golden era as far as being an anime fan and just what's available at your fingertips and at your eyeballs 24/7.
I agree. And I'm excited for what's to come, because I mean, Dan is about the premiere. We're getting Sakamoto Days next year. Bleach is coming back. Yeah. I am super excited about the future as well. So I agree with you there. I think we are entering into, I guess, what could be considered as another golden age, a new generation golden age with anime.
Yeah, like I love that you referenced, not only 1,000 Year with Bleach, which is fantastic, some of the best Bleach content that's come out in years, but Sakamoto Days and Dan are 2 of my favorite manga, like of all time, and seeing what they've done already with the trailers, and annoyingly, they haven't done an Australian release yet for the first 3 episodes with Dan in the cinema. I'm holding out hope that happens so I can go check them out. But the early reviews on it, from what people are saying out there in the interwebs, are saying it's really great. Like it's everything you want it to be. It's done to the core. So I cannot wait for both of those, because I obsess over both those franchises, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth about reading their manga. So I've read first chapter or first part of Dan. It's a bit of a longer chapter, if I'm not mistaken. I've read that. And then with Sakamoto Days, I haven't picked it up, but I have some friends who have been like highly recommending it to me. And I've been going back and forth on if I want to read it or if I just want to wait on the anime. And I don't know. Part of me wants to just wait on the anime and then maybe do some reviews with it. And part of me is like, there's the content out there and I can go and consume it, but I'm torn on it.
It depends on, I think, your level of patience and restraint.
Yeah.
I have little of both. So my problem a lot of the time is, okay, if I can get it, I'm getting it now and I'll consume it all. So knowing that, like, I'm up to date on the latest chapter for Dan and Sakamoto, so I know where it's going to go. But like something like Solo Leveling that came out earlier this year as well, I hadn't read any of the manhwa, so I watched the anime, and now I'm like, I can't wait for season 2. So then I just chewed through the manhwa front to back within the span of like a week. And so I've got to the completion of that story, and now I'm waiting little, like not as impatiently as I probably would if I hadn't read the manhwa. Like I'm excited to see where season 2 goes from an animation style, but I know where the story is going to take us, and that doesn't sort of have me any less excited, I think, which I'm fortunate to be. I'm not like, I don't care anymore, I'm done. Like I'm still just excited to see it translate to screen as I did from the panel.
Yeah, and there's been a couple. So like Blue Lock was one that I picked up. I didn't read it all the way through. I read it to where season 1 ended. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait on season 2 before I read anymore. And so I've done that with a couple, and I don't know. I think that is probably my preferred way to do it, on one that I pick up anime first. because it's like I don't want to ruin it for myself, because I'll take Tower of God as a perfect example. I've read all 630-ish chapters of Tower of God, and so now as this season 2 of their anime, we waited 4 years for it, and of course they can't include everything in the anime, or otherwise we'll get 13 episodes of them on this one floor. But there were things that I felt were pretty important that were left out, and I'm pretty sure they'll tie it back in some way, or at least I hope they do. But I don't want to fall into that with any of these great animes that I've picked up. And so, like, yeah, I'll take it and I'll read, and I'll notice things here and there, but I just don't want to. I'm like you. I kind of don't have that patience, and just can hold out. But at the same time, it's like, but I don't want to ruin it for myself either.
That's the hard part, because a lot of the time that source material, whether it be a manga, a manhwa, even just like a traditional book, like you see with the books and the manga, you do have a level of interpretation in your brain, and you sort of play things out in your head differently, and then you see it translate to screen. And when it's not exactly what you envision it to be, you're like, oh man, this doesn't hit right. Or they have to take out things for pacing and continuity and stuff. So it can be delicate, because I feel that, like, I've not anime related at all, but like I'm such a big Stephen King stan, and The Dark Tower is like my favorite book series of all time. And then seeing it get translated to screen, and they tried to condense like nearly 10 books into like one 90-minute movie that was so poorly done. And I'm like, man, my heart is broken right now, because I love this franchise so much, and then it get chewed up and spit out by Hollywood. So luckily, at least with anime, for the most part, we don't see too many dumpster fire adaptations going from panel to screen. But yeah, you do see some things miss for better or for worse, which can suck.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, but listeners, if this is your first time stopping on by More Than a Hentai, firstly, thank you. But secondly, what took you so bloody long? But I appreciate that you're here now. The way this podcast works is we're going to do a singular deep dive on the first episode of an anime that one or both of us hadn't watched up until time of recording here. So we're going to go front to back, full spoilers in episode 1. We're not going to go beyond that and ruin major twists, turns, plot points, and things like that. But we're just going to unpack this first episode, talk about the good, the bad, the everything else in between, and then sort of work out, would you recommend this to someone? Would you keep watching? If so, yes. If so, no. Tell us why. So it's more of a gateway to, trying to hopefully discover your new favorite anime out there. And our title in focus for this episode of More Than Hentai is a science fiction comedy shonen known as Gintama, a series written and illustrated by Hideaki Sirachi, which debuted in December of 2003 and has been since collected into 77 tankobon volumes and has gone on to sell over 58 million copies worldwide, making it one of the most popular manga of all time. An anime adaptation produced by Sunrise, the studio behind such titles as Cowboy Bebop, Code Geass, Inuyasha, and Gundam, began airing in April of 2006, running for 367 episodes across 10 seasons. Gintama has gone on to spawn also a light novel, 7 video games, and 5 films, with 3 animated and 2 being live action. Gintama can be found currently on Crunchyroll, pending your region, and currently holds a score of 8.93 on My Anime List based on 402,000 unique user reviews, making it the 17th ranked anime overall and the 143rd most popular anime on the website, and is a series that I personally scored a solid 9 out of 10 on My Anime List. And the story of Gintama is as follows. Edo, a once vibrant city under samurai rule, has fallen under the control of powerful aliens called the Amanto, who have dismantled the shogunate and banned swords in public. Amid the upheaval, Gintoko Sakata, a quirky silver-haired samurai who carries a wooden sword, runs a small odd job business called Odd Jobs Gintama, alongside his companions Shinpachi Shimura, a samurai in training, and Kagura, a superhumanly strong and voracious girl, as well as Sadaharu, their large, head-biting pet dog. Gintoki navigates a world full of alien royalty and local gangs, tackling bizarre and unexpected challenges and jobs. So, Shad, we're going to be diving into the first episode titled, You Guys, Do You Even Have Gintama? Or depending on the translation, You Jerks, and You Claim to Have Gintama? Let's start with our first overall impressions. Let's go sort of holistically, helicopter view style, about Gintama, about episode 1, and then we can sort of dive into more of the scene-by-scene transactions that happen in episode 1. So, man, what was your general impressions, your first impressions on Gintama?
Yeah. So I went in completely blind when we talked about covering this anime. I didn't read any synopsis. I didn't watch any trailers, nothing. I had heard of Gintama before, but I had not watched it, not really seen anything on it. And so I wanted, like, okay, I'm going into this truly blind. And so when that very first scene where he's running from the group that's chasing him and they stop, and I'm like, okay, there's about to be a sword fight. And then I realized, yeah, it's like, and he's like, no, and takes off running, and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I love this. This is perfect, because I could sense that Gintoki was skilled. And like, even from how he looked at them, how they were approaching him, the stance he took, everything. I was like, okay, he's skilled. He's the MC. He's going to be strong. There's going to be something here, but it didn't happen. and the comedy that was played there, I actually liked it. I don't generally, I guess, take to those that sort of open with that style of like comedy that just straight out, just flat open with it. I like that they came in and gave sort of almost a trolling sort of standpoint of more serious anime, and then pulled out the comedy. And so I was completely shocked, especially when he hopped the fence and they're in a city. They're in like a modern day city. There are dog people, there are aliens, and I'm like, oh, I was not expecting any of this at all. I thought this was gonna be, because you hear Edo and you think of like the Edo era of Japan, and I thought that this was gonna be sort of like a period piece, that there would be swords. Yeah, they banned them, almost like sort of like a Rurouni Kenshin type of thing, but yeah, I was not expecting aliens, the dog people, the modern, flying cars and everything. And I was not expecting, modern times, flying cars, aliens, dog people. But it was good. It was refreshing. Especially with some of the more modern anime that I've been consuming, and none of them really lead with the comedy like that. And I feel like this did it in almost a perfect way. And so I could see why a lot of people would be fans of it. And so those were like my initial thoughts, that like, this is good. This is a great intro, a great introduction. There was a little bit of fourth wall breaking, and so you don't see that in a lot of anime really anymore. And I loved it. It took me back to, that time period of being in high school, and things are serious, but they aren't being taken too serious. And so, yeah, I definitely want to see more.
Yeah, it's super fun, and I love that it just pulls the rug right out from under you straight off the get-go. Like you said, you feel like, okay, we're going to have this epic sword fight. This guy's outmanned, and he's got a half a dozen Ronin about to take him down, and then he's like, joke's on you, suckers, and keeps running, and then it just sort of escalates from there. But yeah, my thoughts with Gintama, it's easy, it's enjoyable, and it feels like there's something for everybody with Gintama. Like, it feels like one of the best anime sitcoms, if we want to call it that, like, that's come out, and it really holds up, even though it's 18 years old now. Came out in 2006. So it's a dated anime, but it doesn't feel that way. the animation still holds up. Like Sunrise, one of the kings of the animation game. Like we mentioned some of the stuff they've done, and they are one of the savants of sci-fi. You could say, they've done a ton of Gundam, they've done Cowboy Bebop, etc., Code Geass. So they've played with some of my favorite franchises and your favorite franchises of all time. So combining that high level of animation with fantastic comedy and also the comedic timing from the vocal delivery, whether it be on the sub or the dub, really fantastic. And then seeing so many references get thrown at you that are still relevant or maybe slightly less relevant depending on what it is or who it is today. But I was constantly like just chuckling along on this 20-odd minute ride and sort of sitting like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme on the couch where I'm sitting there doing the point when they're saying certain things. I'm like, I understand that, or I see that reference or that Easter egg. And it's just fun. Like this just really embodies the word fun because it knows exactly what it's trying to do and it commits to that 110% and it leaves the viewer, I think, satisfied and happy and content with the time they've just consumed with this anime. Because it's just an easy watch, man.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. It's sitcom done right. They hit all of the cues perfectly, all of the comedy perfectly, that fourth wall breaking perfectly. And so that was definitely one aspect of it that, like I said, we haven't seen it in a lot of anime, period. And the comedy, like you said, the references they make and the jokes that they pull, they were all perfectly timed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's funny, like it feels like the mangaka, grew up in a time period like you and I, so that he's referencing a lot of things that would have been relevant in the 2000s when this started to first get published, and he feels like a dude that you could probably sit down and have a beverage with and have a good time and talk about our fandoms and our pop culture loves and hates, because you just see it all come together with Gintama, because it is just such an absurd concept, but it works. Like combining, feudal Japan, swordplay, samurais, aliens, flying cars, fourth wall breaking, even referencing goddamn John Cena in a scene. It's just like, nothing is off limits with Gintama,
Exactly.
but I think that's what makes it work too, because they don't hold back on anything. You're like, you know what? If we're leaning into this, we're leaning all the way in. So just strap in and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and like you said, it hit a bunch of things because I'm a big wrestling fan, and so it hit that. I am a sucker for samurai, the swordplay aspect of things, and so I'm sure the show at some point will get to some serious sword fights, or maybe not so serious. I mean, I would love to see how the comedy aspect of it plays into the action, because there's subtle action in this first episode. It's not full on all out, fights, but there's action. You can tell that there's gonna be action, but you can also tell that they're gonna weave that comedy into the action perfectly. And I feel like that works perfectly when you have an artist that can do that and relay it and it not come over cheesy, the jokes don't fall flat, and so I'm excited to watch more.
Hell yeah. And you've got a lot to consume. Like I mentioned, there's 367 episodes of Gintama across 10 seasons. And there is some fantastically animated sword fights and combat scenes that happen in future episodes and future seasons. So it isn't all just slap happy and Gintama just running from fight after fight. Like there is some really cool battles. So I like that they can sort of balance between that parody, silly, slapsticky, and then get serious and emotional when they need to, because then those payoffs they hit even harder. I think when it's one note the whole time, like that note runs a little dry after a bit, but the fact that they can go funny, sad, happy, serious, crazy, bit cheeky, a bit sexy, all in the span of 5 minutes, I think it just keeps things fresh and keeps you on your toes. Yeah, so the first episode itself, we get a cold open with nothing more than a voiceover dropping a Gintama, and you're like, okay, where's this going? And then we're straight away introduced to Gintoki and his trademark naturally wavy hair, which the narrator has to point out, which also just makes me chortle. Like, I love a good narrator as a plot device that can move things forward, add context, and Gintama does it really well with the narrator in this series, in this franchise. So yeah, we see Gintoki. As Shad mentioned, we're first introduced to him and he's getting chased through a bamboo forest by several samurai, ends up surrounded. Fake draws his sword and we go, oh, here we go. What's going to happen? But then he's like, psych, keeps running, much to the amazement of the pursuers. I love that they're just like, who is this guy? Why are you such a coward? Like, face us, you peasant. He ends up hopping over a fence, and then we're immediately introduced to Shinpachi, who's Gin's offsider, who's also getting chased by a group of samurai. And we get some really good fourth wall breaking here with Gin talking about how the program has just started. And, this is crazy that we've got all this hype this early into the first episode, rah, rah, rah. Then we get a lot thrown at us very quickly here as Gin and Shinpachi are getting chased down an alley. They end up coming out of the other side of this alley, into this modern/future city with flying cars. It's like very Fifth Element-y vibes going on. We got cars flying around. We got, sort of modern space age tech combined with the Japanese shogunate. And then we see Kagura arriving on the back of a giant dog that I mentioned. The name is Sadaharu. She flies in, hits the pursuers, sending them flying. The narrator then gives us some context where she's part of the Yato clan, which is the most powerful warrior race in the universe. So you're like, okay, we're talking universe here. We're going to see some type of space age situations playing out. We then see all three flee together. They end up getting cornered, and this is where we find out they're all part of a group called Odd Jobs Gin, where they will do literally anything as long as they get paid. We find out that they're currently on a job trying to find a lost cat, which then conveniently walks into frame right up at that moment. And then we get the opening that just cuts to the OP. Bakuchi Danger is the song by Does, which is a really fun little pop punk banger that really gets the toes tapping and really feels on brand for this world. But man, this is all in the first 4 minutes. Like, they throw so much at us in these 4 minutes, and you go, man, I'm happy the opening's cut in because I can catch my breath and have a drink because I'm tired.
Yeah. And those were some one I love when they introduce animals as actual characters. And so when I saw this oversized dog come in and he's like biting heads but in like a cute way, it's like it was in a very I wouldn't say almost non-menacing way, because it still has like the cute face and everything, and he's just gripped onto a head.
And the blood, you see the blood like dripping down the skull of whoever he's biting on.
And they're just talking. They're just talking like nothing's going on, and it's just normal. This is normal. This happens every day. Don't worry.
It's so good, but it just fits in this world. Hey, like you don't just go, no, that shouldn't happen. You just immediately I immediately just bought in, and I'm like, okay, giant space dogs, aliens, samurai, flying cars. I'm like, cool, I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah. And even with the job that they had taken, and it made me think, once you find it's odd jobs again, and so you feel like these odd jobs are going to be a big part of the story, and these odd jobs are going to lead them to be in some very precarious situations. And so that was my first take on that job, because I guess while they were looking for this cat, they had broken into some like top secret compound, and they've done all this looking for a cat. And so, yeah, I definitely think that the odd jobs portion of it is going to play a big part in the story. And, we're going to get a story where, they may not be looking for a cat, but they're looking for a dog, but this dog leads them to this alien compound. And next thing you know, we're on Mars continuing this samurai story.
It made me think a lot watching this and reflecting, like, it's got similar notes to Cowboy Bebop in where these episodes could all be bottle episodes, but there's these interconnected threads. And just like in Cowboy Bebop, we've got the dog Iron, and now we've got this other dog that's a potential plot device, or this cat that's a plot device. So I like that, each one of these episodes feel they could probably exist on their own, but they're all going to form part of the broader puzzle. So kudos to, I don't know if that's by coincidence that Sunrise, the studio behind both of them, have this similar sort of way to narrate and tell a story. But it's just fun, and it really is a tone setter, and it had me excited from the get-go. Like, I've watched through this series, I've only ever watched it through from front to back once, because it is 367 episodes, but even though I did watch it, it still did feel like I was jumping in again for the first time, because it's been maybe a decade since I've checked it out. So it did feel like with yourself as well, it felt like I was jumping in first time and I've forgotten or didn't remember a lot of things. I'm like, oh, that's that, and furiously writing my notes down and sort of watching on with excitement, because everything in this world I just love in my general sort of viewing habits, and it felt like this was just checking all the boxes within the first 4 minutes for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, the opener, I suck with names, and so we played a game, me and a couple of other content creators, where we had to rank like openers, and I was like, you're gonna have to play every one of these because I suck with opener names, but I did like the opener for this one. And like you said, it's one of those where, you get a little head nod or a foot tap, and I feel like that's that piece of the anime, the opener and the closers, because those are parts that people generally skip. But here lately, especially with a lot of the newer animes, they've been going big with the openers and the closers. Like, not to get off topic for a little bit, but going back to the spring, if I'm not mistaken, like every one from Kaiju number 8 to Go Go Loser Ranger, Windbreaker, they all had like bangers as openers and closers. Probably my favorite from the summer, Tower of Gods OP is pretty good. The Elusive Samurais takes me back. Their OP reminds me of like a classic anime OP with its rhythm, and Gintama's it drew me in because it was fun. It was fun. It matched the vibe of the anime perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. Like, because a lot of the time you see with these opens and endings, they are a little jarring and just feel different tonally and thematically. And you go, who signed off on this? It doesn't feel like what I've just watched for the last 20 odd minutes. It feels like this shouldn't exist, but this just folded in really effortlessly. And the one thing from the opener that sort of does overwhelm you a little bit, though, is it's like, holy shit, there's like 50 characters you've just shown to me in this 30-40 second loop that I have no idea who they are. And I know they're going to come at me thick and fast. And this episode too, like, there are so many characters that they introduce to us in this 20 odd minute runtime. So that's the only thing where you see a lot of these other anime, that first episode can be a little bit more subdued. We might just meet the main pro tag and maybe an ancillary character. But this one, they're like, no, here's like 50 characters. Get ready because they're coming at you.
Yeah. Now it led me to think, are all of these characters going to be relevant, or is this just a thing? Because I think later in the episode it's referenced. They make the joke of like, it's like they make the joke of like, oh, they're not important characters anyway. And it's like, is he serious, or is this going to be like a running joke of them popping back up randomly? And the joke being made that they're not important characters. You don't need to learn their names.
It's so great. The narrator being an extra character in Gintama is just fantastic and adds so much more weight, and just, it's just a constant icebreaker to these scenes. So after the opening, we get some more narration, but it's actually from Shinpachi here, and he's sort of telling us about how, the land of the samurai is no more, courtesy of alien invaders known as the Amanto, or sometimes known as the Sky People, and they enacted a sword ban countrywide. So that's what led to the downfall of the samurai. Then we get the standard narrator, and he introduces us to this episode's guest characters. So we're getting some fourth wall break and some context, and we're introduced to Mr. Kariya and Shishimura, and they certainly look like they're up to no good. But then the narrator, quickly dismisses a couple of the other nameless goons, and he's like, don't worry about them. Like you said, Chad, they're irrelevant. You'll forget about them. But they do play a little bit more of a consistent part in this first episode. And then, we see Mr. Kariya dismisses this PowerPoint presentation that the nameless goon gave him as far as, I guess, their next level of debauchery and their next evil scheme. And we don't dwell on these guys for too long, because then straight away, we're then introduced to the Shinsengumi, who are a secret police force working for the samurai government. They plan a raid on this complex where Mr. Kariya is. They bust in, we're the police, hands up type of nonsense. But they find out that Kariya has already fled the scene. The head of the secret force, Toshiru, is there. We get introduced to him. But we find out it's not a total bust because they discover one lowly blueprint that's been left behind. But then we get this scene here where we're sort of introduced to Akita, who's Toshiru's second in command, and he pulls out a rocket launcher and tries to shoot Toshiru. And I'm like, what's happening here? Because Akita sort of laughs it off and he's like, oh, this just happens all the time. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, so does he do this for fun and just a bit of trolly? Or is he a bit of a secret agent or like a double agent here that wants to kill Toshiru for whatever nefarious means? So you're like, I've got some thoughts on that. But then we flash forward to the Odd Jobs Gin office with the crew just lounging around. Gintama's reading comics and reflecting on how he probably shouldn't because he's a grown man, etc., etc. Sorry, that's completely wrong. We don't yuck anybody's yums around here. You want to read comics, whether you're 10 or whether you're 100, go for it. But Shinpachi storms in, tells the team they're broke. We get some great back and forth between them in relation to, shaming the reading of comics as an adult, talking about getting anemia because they're so poor and can't afford food, and then end up looking like the characters from the movie Avatar, going all blue from the anemic shock, and also telling any door-to-door insurance salesman to go away. We don't need the insurance because they all have cancer. So you're like, holy shit, this is going some places. We're then introduced to Ken Kato, who's knocked at the door. We find out that he's actually been a Ronin for a few days and needs a hand getting something back that he lost. So he's reached out to Odd Job Skin to employ them for this task. But we then also find out through a series of unfortunate events, and I think some excellent animation and framing here, where we're seeing the team get more engrossed and more distraught as Ken tells his story, because he's like, 3 weeks ago, I lost my job. 2 weeks ago, I lost my house. 1 week ago, I lost my wife and kid. And they're like on the edge of their seat going, and like, tell us. And he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you anything more until the job's complete. And the job just so happens that it requires 30 million yen to get it back, whatever it is. So there's so much fourth wall breakage going on in this interaction. But again, there is just stuff coming at us thick and fast. There's puns, there's wordplay, there's references, there's really great comedic timing, some funny moments, some whoa, you went there moments regarding, the cancer reference. But you learn pretty quickly here, Shad, that this anime doesn't hold back.
No, not at all. And like you said, with the characters that are introduced, and there's a lot. I mean, when you go from the bad guys, the gang that are introduced, and they're telling you these characters aren't important, then the police, and that one was that piece was hilarious for me, because like, okay, I'm in. They have me sold. This comedy I feel like is gonna hit just like this all the way through. But then when you get to the police force and you have the lieutenant trying to kill this guy, and I had thoughts of, what if this is a game between them? And it's like, if you're able to kill me, you become the police captain. Or, if this is part of his training of like, no, you aren't strong enough to kill me, so you aren't strong enough to lead anyone, or, anything like that. It's like, because I mean, he tried to blow him up, and on purpose. It wasn't even like a oops or a miss. It was on purpose. and so I wonder what that dynamic is. And I'm sure the show is going to dive into what their relationship is, and why this takes place, and if he succeeds at some point. And the cancer joke, like, I'm not sure if, where you're from, they have insurance people who would come door to door. But I remember that as a kid, of having like the Mass Mutual guy come knocking on the door trying to meet with my parents to sell them insurance, and then the Gerber people coming and them trying to sell insurance. And it's like, what do you tell them to make them go away and not come back? Like, tell them you got cancer. They can't sell a policy to somebody who has cancer. and the old guy who's trying to get them to start the job, or I feel like it was almost let me give you the sob story and guilt you into taking this job for free type of deal. But their reactions to it and being all into it, and like, on the edge of their seats. And then Gintoki tell them, like, they don't turn down, really any job, which kind of shows a different, you've seen the comedic side, but that moment was a little bit more serious. and you can tell there's a little bit more behind his character than the jokes. And so I'm interested to see more about really all the characters introduced, because I don't believe they introduced a dull character in this episode at all.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. Like they're all big personalities, they're all very diverse and distinctive, and they all really like it's certainly like an odd couple or an odd family type of situation, but yet they're all there. They've got a common goal. We do find out as well in sort of these opening scenes that Gintoki, hasn't paid the members of the Odd Jobs crew once, apparently. Like that they've been doing this for 12 months, but then Shinpachi sort of reflecting like, actually, I think we've been paid like one time since we've been doing this. So who knows what Gintoki's up to there. But yeah, we don't get much clarity on that in this episode. But one of the fourth wall breaks here really got me, where they're like, oh my God, we've got clients for 2 days in a row. And then they're like, yeah, probably because it's the first episode. And that one sent me.
Yeah, that sitcom aspect of it. And like I said, they play it perfectly. And recognizing, hey, this is the first episode. We will make fun of ourselves in this first episode. We're going to play up to the tropes that, generally, because most first episodes start out like this. There's a bit of luck. There's a crazy story. There is this or that going on. And it's like, are their everyday lives like this? And Gintoki's like, no, this is the first episode. This is why this is happening.
It's so good. It's so well done. And then from there, we jump into the next act, and we get a lot of characters thrown at us again in this act. We end up at a bar run by Otase, who is also Gintoki's landlord, conveniently enough. We meet her offsider, Catherine, who's an ex-thief and also happens to be an alien. Don't really get much backstory about that. Or apart from that with Catherine. And then Otase sort of attempts to help them get quick cash because, Gintoki and the crew roll in and we're like, hey, we're here to help Ken. He needs 30 million yen in short order. What do you recommend? So Otase actually takes them then to a dodgy black market doctor, telling Ken, it's like, you got 2 kidneys. All right, just sell one of them. It's all good. Like, this is a quick and easy way to get some yen in your pocket. He then chickens out. They go back to the bar. And here we meet Ayami Saratogu, who's an elite ninja, and she's hiding on/in the ceiling for some reason, like almost like a pseudo wallpaper on the roof that she's sort of using as cover. And she peels it down, jumps down off the ceiling, and we find out very quickly that she's madly in love with Gin. But he doesn't really want a bar of it. He's been dismissing her advances for quite some time. We then get some food-based sexual innuendo that ends with Ayami getting orgasmically blasted away by Gintoki here. And I'm like, okay, nothing is definitely off limits in this anime. Like it's just escalating throughout this episode where it's like, okay, slapstick, we get cancer jokes, we've got sexual innuendo and fake orgasms. Like, what next? But I'm here for it as we're riding this train. We're then reintroduced to the forgettable nameless goons that the narrator sort of said to dismiss earlier in the episode from the failed raid from the Shinsengumi. They end up making fun of Ken for signing his life away for them and doing this dodgy deal. And that's why we understand, okay, so this is why he's in such desperate stakes. Here's the plot threads connecting together with the bad guys and how Ken sort of ties into this. But then in this moment, Ken goes, you know what? I want to adjust my contract with Odd Jobs Gin. I don't need to worry about the 30 million yen anymore. I just want to become stronger. And you're like, oh, that's something we can all resonate with, you know? Like, he wants to be the very best. He wants to be strong and, I don't know, maybe beat all these guys to death to get his family and house back. Who knows? We then shift back to Shinsengumi headquarters where we see Toshiro and his superior, who is as dumb as a bag of bricks, discussing what happened with the failed raid. And we're then getting some more context on the blueprint. And we're like, oh, it's a blueprint for an Amanto device. So like an alien blueprint. But the comical back and forth between Toshiro and his superior here is fantastic. But man, again, there's so much coming at us. And how are you feeling at this point? Like, are you managing to keep up with everything that Takamatsu, the director, is sending our way? Because it is just a million miles an hour. There's stuff coming from everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of... once it shifted to after the OP and it, like you said, it started coming fast and furious with characters, with scene changes, with plot points. but I liked it because I felt like you said, those two, you said, don't worry about them. They're not important. I felt like they were going to come back at some point. And then all of these characters and plot points they're introducing, I felt as though, okay, hopefully they're not being introduced for no reason at all. But I feel like there's going to be some importance here, even if I have to write all of this down at some point, because it was at this point where keeping up with the characters was starting to become a little bit difficult. Because if I'm not mistaken, by the time they make it to the bar, you've probably been introduced to 20-ish or so characters.
Which is a lot in a first episode.
For a very first episode, it is a whole lot. But not only those 20 characters, you've been introduced to a handful of plot points that all may have some relevance. They may not, but it seems like they may all have some relevance. And so you can see the strings starting to go out that will carry this story. And so it was a lot, but I feel like it's a good start to a story.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, yeah, it is. I think it's borderline potentially overwhelming, but I don't think it tips over for me. Like, I managed to hold on and understand what's going on, understand where all these characters slot in, where this story could potentially go, who and what exists in this world, and then also the various groupings that we're learning about, you know, the underbelly, and then, you know, the people working at the Drifting Star Embassy that we're going to talk about in a second, and the secret police, and, you know, Odd Jobs Gin. So they're siloing things off really well, but also then having bridges between all these sort of silos to make it easier to understand. So I like that there is a lot coming at us, but it feels like they also respect the viewer's intelligence by not holding back and giving us all this stuff. So I appreciate that as well from Sunrise, because yeah, it's a lot, but not to the point of too much.
Yep. And even with the alien blueprint. And so with that, they show us that there are aliens and everything here, but there's some type of separation, some type of divide there, I guess, between the humans and the aliens, I take it, just based on, you know, them having this blueprint and this blueprint having some value and it being, I guess, a major part of that operation and a plot point that they focus on in the first episode. And so it kind of got my wheels turning, trying to see like, okay, well, are the aliens like overlords? Can humans only do certain things? Are they only allowed to have certain technology? And this criminal gang had this blueprint. So what were they planning on doing with this blueprint? Like what exactly is this machine, and what were they trying to accomplish? And so I'm interested in seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, it certainly leaves you with a lot of questions, which I think is the obviously the sign of good storytelling in general. But
yeah, when
a first episode can leave you on the hook going, man, I need to know more. I want to know more. Is my theory right? Am I way off? And yeah, like Mr. Courier, the big bad of this episode, like he is of alien bloodline. So there is some potential synergy there where, like you said, it's almost like inverse District 9. I don't know if you ever watched that fantastic sci-fi film from Neil Blomkamp, but it's the inverse where, you know, the aliens come here and become the downtrodden and the weak and on the poverty line. But it feels like that, yeah, aliens have come here and almost taken over at least, you know, Edo at the very least. We don't know if this is something that is done globally and they've just taken over all of Earth, but at least we know with this part of the world, the Yamato are certainly the ones in power. So yeah, it leaves you with a lot of questions, which I love in general for storytelling. But we're then back with Gintoki. He's now tailing the nameless, forgettable goons, and we find out that's where they end up at the Drifting Star Academy. And then we're introduced to another character who is an extremist named Cobra. Actually, I mean Katsura, and his giant duck friend. And you're like, okay, what is happening here? There is a giant humanoid duck just cruising around with this, like, you know, guerrilla extremist named Katsura. So you're like, okay, suspending disbelief. I'm just going to accept it. They're going to give me some context later. But we get some back and forth between Katsura and Gintoki, and we can see that they've known each other for a while and understand where they slot into this world. And there's a bit of friendship / pseudo rivalry, it feels like, between these two. But yeah, Katsura informs Gin here about a rumor doing the rounds about an Amanto plotting to destroy the whole capital. And you're like, okay, there's the connected sort of tissue to that Amanto device blueprint from earlier. That's what's going to be the foil to potentially destroy the capital. Katsura warns Gintoki about this, and there's plenty of foreshadowing in this little back and forth. And then, they part ways. Gin peels around the corner of the Drifting Star Embassy, sort of still walking along the fence line, runs into another samurai, and promptly throws a bit of shade about him and his dated hat and his, terrible fashion choices, which again made me crackle. We jump forward to the team attempting to help get Ken stronger. We've got a bit of a training montage going on here. And we see Kagura, and we can see pretty quickly that she's just a bad bitch. Like, she jumps up, slices a giant boulder in half with a single chop, and you're like, whoa, okay, you're a tough mama. Like, we aren't going to mess with Kagura because you can chop giant boulders right down the middle with just one little swing. We then get that random John Cena reference here, which had me cackling. I was dead at this moment, Shad.
Yeah, and so when, like you said, there's a lot of foreshadowing here, and then we get to see potentially what this crew can do with action. Like you said, she sliced the boulder. I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I expected Gintoki to be, of course, with him being the main character, to be strong. There'd be something there. But I expected the rest of the crew to not necessarily, what's the proper word? Not necessarily be bumbling, but to be learning, because I feel like they went to Gintoki for a reason. And whether he was a well-known samurai or he had a name for himself, but they went, and when they said he wanted to get stronger, I was like, okay, that ties it in. He did. He came to Gintoki to get stronger. But then she's cutting this boulder, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe they don't need to get stronger. Maybe, but then it kind of, with the, and his name is slipping my mind, the one that appeared to be a rival,
Katsura.
Katsura, yes. And so their interaction, I mean, you could sense that there's something there, that there's something, how could I put it? There's something unfinished almost that I'm hoping that we get to explore. And so also with the alien plot, I'm with you. We don't know if this is just this location, because in this first episode, all they've said is they've come, they've taken over Ito. But then too, I have a feeling, and I don't know, I may be wrong, that this is taking place in the past, that it's not a modern day, it's not a modern day story, but this is, ancient Japanese time period. Aliens came, made it modern, and this is the only place in the world that is modern.
I'm not going to confirm nor deny anything you're saying right now. I'm just going to nod, but also dismissively nod.
and I don't know. That's just me guessing. I'm not going to pay attention to that nod. You won't confirm or deny, but I like a good senpai student relationship. And I feel like we're going to get that to a point. I mean, we have 300 or so episodes, and I can't remember how many movies, but that even though we see that we have what seems to be some competent characters and some less competent, some who want to get stronger, I still feel like Gintoki is a master, that they came to him for a reason, and everybody, because he seems to be well known, everybody knows him for a reason. And I feel like in this anime, through this story, we will learn why that is. We will learn why, he has rivals out there. I take it there's probably some duel or some rivalry that was unsettled because aliens came, banned swords. They can't finish their story. He was probably known throughout this region as being the strongest or the greatest swordsman or something like that. And maybe it plays into the criminals as well. Like the criminals are able to thrive now because the samurai are no more. There's nobody to stop them. They can come up with these plots and plans because, I mean, we don't know yet, but do the aliens really care what the humans do? I mean, like I said, there seems to be some sort of hierarchy. There's questions. The story brought me to a bunch of questions that make me want to watch more.
I love that. And again, I'm not going to throw water or throw extra coals on that fire that you're stoking over there, but you hit on some good points. That's all I'm going to say. It's good that you've sort of thought beyond this first episode and dug deeper on some of the content that they've given us in this 20 odd minutes, because they throw a lot at us. On a slightly less serious note, what did you think of the giant duck friend of Katsura though?
Oh man. Yeah. I feel like this duck is going to end up being a badass duck. Like we're going to get it somewhere in a future episode there's going to be some fight and this duck pulls out, some forbidden karate or some forbidden martial arts or some alien weapon, and he's slapping everybody left and right. I love it. I love it when they can introduce these silly aspects and expect you to take it serious. Like, you're meant to take this duck seriously. I mean, he's not, it is there for a little comedic relief, but kind of like with the dog and biting the head and like nobody bats an eye, or at least in the story, nobody bats an eye. And so I feel like there's going to be something there with it. I love it. I love it. I laughed, but I love it.
Me too. And it's funny too, because no one batted an eye apart from the narrator. Like the narrator was lost in this moment, and like they panned to the giant duck, and the narrator's like, okay, moving on, almost like just didn't really know how to handle that situation. So that really cracked me up too, because it felt like then, okay, this narrator's like living this in real time with us, like it felt in that moment. So that was kind of fun and had me chuckling. And so then we jump back to the group with that training montage with Ken. We're seeing Shinpachi then attempting to teach Ken swordplay because, as we know, Ken's been a Ronin for all of 2 days. He promptly fails. He's the worst swordsman on the planet by the looks of things, gets towed up really quickly. We then get some additional dialogue. It's sort of cutting back and forth between this montage and Gin and this Star Embassy samurai, trying to work out who they are. And it's certainly leading to a bit of a battle between the two. Cuts back to the training montage, and then Ayami's like, all right, it's my turn, Ken. We're gonna make you strong. You get ready, and she sort of whips out some rope, and you're like, I know where this is going already. I already knew pretty quickly that you're a bit of a fiend earlier, Ayame, and then she tells Ken that she's going to make him a real man. And then we get some BDSM action here, and we find out that Ken is actually pretty skilled at rope play and tying knots, and he ends up having Shinpachi tied up in the tree, bound in a very submissive-like position. And then Ayami's like, you know what? I think we found your calling, Ken. You could make a really great dominatrix. Again, laugh my ass off, because just the comedic timing between these scenes is just so on point and just what I love. Like, it just felt great to me. I was just cackling along through this entirety of the first episode. But after this, Ken just goes, you know what? I'm giving up. Thanks the team, and starts to walk away. And we're like, what's happening? Like, I thought you were going to be the main plot driver here. You and your need for the 30 million yen to get your family and your house and your job and all this stuff back, and you're just giving up. And we then get the narrator telling us that this is only half the story, loading us up here with plenty of breadcrumbs to keep me and just general viewers longing for more, it felt like. And then it's just fade to black from there. And you're like, man, okay, it sort of ends, maybe not a cliffhanger, maybe like a hill hanger. Like it's sort of just maybe a floor up. Like it's like, whoa, there's some stakes here. what's happening with Ken? Is Gin going to be okay because he's fighting this Star Embassy samurai? What's going to happen? So it certainly ended on not on a big yell, but like certainly a loud discussion. It felt like to me, and left me wanting more. How did you feel the ending landed there, Shad?
It left me wanting more. I didn't expect it to end right there. I'm right there with you. And then come to find out that this was a two-parter. And it was like, that's understandable. But it's not the typical ending that you would get from a first episode of an anime. And I like it. It's different. It was unexpected, but I like it. And kind of like the rest of the episode, it left me wanting more, which is good.
Yeah, that's all as a viewer we can hope for, right?
Exactly. That's what you want when you pick up something new. And because I mean, you're taking a chance, you're taking your time, and time is precious. And you're watching this, and throughout this, and I mean, it seemed, because they introduced so many characters, so many plot lines, it seemed honestly like more than, the 23 or so minutes. And you thoroughly enjoyed it. And then it ends, and I think that was on purpose. So it ends, it's like, okay, well, I got to watch the next one. I can't just leave it right here. But in the characters that are introduced, there's intrigue, there's mystery. Like, you wonder, like, why? You're right. Why is he walking away? He wanted to do this to get this money to get his family, but he's walking away. And I guess we find out in the next episode, like, why he's walking away. Whether it's he's intimidated by what's there, he's scared, he's seeing that he maybe can't do it. And then same thing with the little battle that's going on. There's no conclusion there. You see it start, it's going on, but you don't see it conclude. And so you want to see that, because, I mean, like a lot of people, they watch anime for the action. Yeah, there's the comedy and everything and story, which are good, but in most anime, they all lead to a point of action. And you're right, they started it, cut away to something else, and then ended the episode. And so, yeah, I was kind of surprised when it ended, but it made me want to pick up and keep going.
It certainly ended on a big tease. And truth be told, when I was watching it through, I'm like, man, maybe we should extend this episode out and tackle both parts. I thought, that would give us a little bit more of a complete story, at least for these sort of opening exchanges with the characters. And we're like, no, we'll end on this little cliffhanger, and hopefully that's enough to incentivize Chad as well as the rest of the viewers and listeners to keep going with Gintama, because it leaves you with, like you said, man, a good amount of intrigue and curiosity as far as what's going to happen, how's this going to play out, is this world going to be saved, is the capital going to get blown up, like what is going on? I have so many questions, but I have so many good memories from that 20 odd minute runtime. Like, they throw a ton at us, but in that ton, have you got like a good, like a favorite scene or moment that stands out above any in this first episode you wanted to reference?
My favorite would probably be the police captain and lieutenant when he tries to blow him up with the rocket launcher. Because I feel like, again, I love like a student-teacher relationship, and I feel like there's more story there. We're going to find out that all of this is intentional, and, the police captain has him doing this for a reason, and it's not him just, trying to kill him. Just, there's a reason behind it. I feel like there's a reason behind why he's taking those actions, and finding them out, I feel like would be very satisfying. I also enjoyed, let's see what else. I also, the odd jobs part, the odd jobs again, because I feel like that's a plot point that is going to drive the story. and I may be wrong on that, but I feel like it's going to drive the story, and the jobs that they take are going to end up, like I said, putting them in situations that they probably shouldn't be in, putting them in places that they shouldn't be in. I mean, just like with the cat, they end up in this top secret area chasing a cat. And so I enjoy that. Like I said, I'm a lore guy, and so I love a good backstory. And there were a bunch of relationships introduced that aren't new. These relationships are established, whatever they may be, whether it's a love interest, whether it's a rival. They're already established, and I imagine we're gonna get to see the backstory in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of deep history there that they glaze over super quickly, as you'd expect in a first episode, but it leaves you with so much curiosity about, okay, how do these people know each other? How long have they known each other? What's the history between the two? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it dark? Is it happy? Is it sad? Etc. So there's so much there as far as those emotional cogs in my head turning. I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember where this goes. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens with these two. Or, will Ayame and Gin ever become a thing? Or, which is the next professional wrestler that's going to get referenced? Like, there's so many things where I'm just excited to see where this goes. And yeah, it's funny because I don't typically gravitate towards the more long form storytellings. Like you and I were talking offline during the week about One Piece and being, 1,118 episodes or so from the other day. I'm like, it's just too much. But then like this at 367 episodes, I'm like, you know what? That's still a lot. But I think just this world resonates with me more, and just the way it tells the story, the characters, the pacing, and just the comedic timing just really scratches an itch for me more than, say, a Naruto, a Dragon Ball, and a One Piece.
Yeah, and that's what I feel. I feel like you're right, because with anyone picking up an anime or really any story I believe we talked about Warhammer a little bit and how it has 300 plus books and, all of these different aspects. One Piece with over 1,000 episodes, and I think they're at 1,100 now. It can be daunting and it can be challenging. And I know people who stay away from longer anime for that reason, especially like some that they don't care what people think of it, how well loved it is. But the fact that it's 300 episodes, 500 episodes, they'll avoid it. And I can understand that too. I can understand why people would avoid it. But I feel like with this one, they did a very good job introducing plot points that if you give it a chance, you're going to want those plot points answered.
Yeah. You're
going to want to know, like you said, the relationship. Do they get together? Why is he turning her down with the rival? What were they fighting for? Was it a pride thing? Was it Gintoki challenging him to be the best? Was he challenging Gintoki to be the best? We don't know. And so it's the things in storytelling that I enjoy the most that they introduced a lot of in episode 1.
That makes me very happy to hear. So I guess it's more of a rhetorical question now, but will you continue to watch Gintama after this first episode?
For sure. I am definitely gonna continue watching, and I'll probably cover it at some point.
Hell yeah, that makes me very happy. But listeners, viewers, Sugoi Squad, if you're still on the fence about Gintama, but you're a fan of anime like Skeet Dance, Daily Lives of High School Boys, Saki K, One Piece, or Beelzebub, they are the 5 commonly most recommended on my anime list. If you're going to love that, you're going to love this type of synergy. So if you had a good time with those 5 that I just mentioned, jump into Gintama because it is well worth your time. But Shad, we're going to jump into the last word presented by our friends over at Japan Crate. Experience Japan through snacks and knickknacks via monthly package drops courtesy of japancrate.com. And while you're there, be sure to use code 8bit15 at checkout to get 15% off your order and free shipping to anywhere on planet Earth. But Shad, what is your last word, your last words, your last thoughts on Gintama?
My last words would be, in a first episode, they go into, there's a lot there. but don't let that overwhelm you. If you're considering getting into this anime, or if you watched it but were overwhelmed, don't let that overwhelm you. Just think of your favorite stories and how they introduce plot points. I feel like Gintama introduced a bunch of plot points in this first episode. They introduced a bunch of characters, and I can understand why people would get overwhelmed with that. But I feel like they take a bunch of elements from a bunch of different genres, whether it's sitcom, action, comedy, romance. There's something in there for everyone. Even if you don't want to follow a particular character or a particular plot point, I feel like there's something there that you'll enjoy. I mean, even if it's the, off-color jokes or breaking the fourth wall, from what I've seen, there's something that everyone will enjoy with this one. And so I'd say I'm going to give it a try and continue watching it. And I'd recommend everyone else do it as well.
Hell yeah, man. And I think what you said there, Gintama really is for everyone. There's something, no matter what your viewing habits and preferences are, typically you'll find it in Gintama, because it's just a melting pot of so many good things from pop culture, and it just does it so well. So yeah, give it a look. It's been out for nearly 20 years now. It holds up really well. The animation's great. The voice work is great. And it's just fun. Like, sometimes you just need fun, easy viewing in your life. Like, we don't want to just be constantly watching, Schindler's List equivalents every other week, because that can wear on your soul. You need some lightheartedness and some craziness and some quirkiness, and that's what Gintama is, and then some. So yeah, give it a peek. But man, thank you so much for stopping on by and fitting me into your busy schedule and allowing me to talk to you from the future. But man, do you want to shout out anything you've got come up, and also where the Sugoi Squad can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at the SideQuest Hustle on all social media platforms and streaming platforms. And I am, I believe, here in the coming weeks, I'm going to explore live streaming. So if you guys are interested in live streaming content, live streaming interviews, set up similar to how this one is, live stream with video games. I've recently gotten into Warhammer, and there's a couple of others. Be sure to check me out at the SideQuest Hustle, YouTube, Twitch, and I think we'll have some fun with that.
Hell yeah. And if you got any questions regarding Red Dead Redemption 2, feel free to reach out to Shad, because it sounds like he's a bit of a lore master of that world as well. So yeah, dude, thanks again for stopping on by. But firstly, I wanted to send a big thank you and virtual hug to all our producers: Aaron L, Dan G, Duffo, Fruge, Skreemus, Smashfxn, Voidmayonnaise, Aaron X, and Benny G. You're all the best. Much love to you all. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe this podcast, as well as the SideQuest Hustle and all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular. Those ratings and reviews, they take no time, they cost no money, and it's just a good karma thing that you can pay forward. So just take a few seconds out of your day to drop that cheeky 5-star on Spotify, and just drop that cheeky 5-star and a nice little review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you are consuming your podcast, because it helps keep us tracking, helps keep us relevant, and helps keep those emotional lights on in our content creator hearts. Head on over to morethanhentai.live to get your hands on some tasty merchandise. And you can join the Sugoi Squad from the low price of $1 per month. But yeah, that brings us to the official end of another episode of More Than Hentai. But listeners, viewers, Sugoi Squad, whether your anime be subbed, dubbed, or still yet to come, enjoy yourself, stay hungry, and much love to all the gorgeous waifus out there. Goodbye.
Peace.